Australian Aviation Podcast, the official podcast of Australian Aviation, unpacking the latest insights, developments and issues impacting Australia's aviation sector.
Hello and welcome to the Australian Aviation Podcast. I am Jake Nelson, and back with us is my co-host, the Deputy Editor of Cyber Daily and dishonorary Canadian, David Hollingworth.
What's it all about, eh?
That's why you're dishonorary.
I know, it's terrible. Also, no one spoke like that. They're all Quebecois. They're all smoking Galois cigarettes and carrying... No, they weren't like that at all.
So you were away in Canada last week, which is why we had our temporary guest co-host, Michelle Huntington. Thank you, Michelle, for coming in.
Oh, how did that go? I'm actually annoyed to miss that one because you've spoken so highly of her and she would have been great to meet.
Yeah, she's really lovely.
Yeah.
And you can go back and listen to the podcast yourself, Dave.
I can, and I should. You're correct.
And you can also catch up on our reaction video. Michelle and myself reacted to 5 in-flight safety videos.
So we should be doing more of that. That sounds actually awesome.
Yes, yeah. So from a real pilot's perspective, what works about these safety videos and what doesn't.
None of this will save you. You're dead anyway.
Yeah, we've had some comments on those, but there's some other comments and such to get through. We were talking a couple of weeks ago about STEM education.
Yep.
And Mr. Denisable on YouTube said, an amazing ability to talk about children's futures while simultaneously drinking beer on air. Maybe I have an outdated outlook on life. I'm 40.
Okay, well.
So that's a compliment for you, David.
Thirsty what? Yep.
This is some stuff on what we were talking about, cybersecurity and solar activity. Paulo Dand said, the problem is that corporations only can care about their meetings with shareholders. It's hard for them to justify the cost of a backup system that will keep them operational in case of a crisis. At the same time, in the case of an airport crisis, all other companies will also be affected, so the huge loss in revenue can be blamed on external factors equal for all the competitors. And Quiblick said, resilience is expensive. Try to explain to most CEOs they need a backup system that is much more expensive to implement now, as opposed to creating 2 independent systems from the get-go that won't be used for 95% of the time. Most will rather eat the costs of that very likely limited event than making sure everything's working all the time. And I mean, you're, as a cybersecurity journalist, I'm sure that's your experience.
Yeah, it is. But look at Jaguar Land Rover, for instance. They went down and it cost the UK their GDP. The country's GDP went down. So I think that right there, if you're worried about resilience matters, and it's worth it in the long run. And I'll just leave that one there until the next time we talk about an airline or airport hack.
Yeah, hopefully not soon.
Narrator, it will almost certainly be soon.
Yes. Now, we did have some comments on our flight safety video.
Oh, yes, yep.
At Paul2609 said, I actually tuned out of the Qantas one. They really should scrap that one because it ain't working.
Is that the one where it's basically from around the world, everybody's safe places?
Magic places.
Magic places, yeah.
Yeah, it's very long, and each of those segments takes a while to get to the point.
Yep. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Daz Godbold said, already in cruise by the time the Qantas video gets to the point. Scrad.
I mean, trust me, that's exactly what happened on my flight to the first leg of my flight to Montreal. Yes,
we'll get to that in a moment.
Yep.
Scrad 007 says, my favorite is the Virgin America safety dance, and a notable mention would be Air New Zealand's Hobbit version.
Oh yes, yes.
Have you seen the Hobbit safety video?
Very much so.
I'll have to look that one up.
Yep. He is paying attention. 007. Bravo.
On the Road with John said, I agree, Qantas, you failed. I seem to remember a good one from, I think, British Airways with Rowan Atkinson a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And Milt Brady left us a very lovely comment. Keep the pilot and flick the other guy who has no idea about aviation. I'm sure he has better things to do, just my opinion. Well, Milt, unfortunately, we can't flick the other guy because he works here.
And aviation is what he's paid to do. Yes. He does not have better things to do,
I do not have better things to do, which is why I'm here. But yes, we had quite a few comments recently. We've had some very complimentary comments about Michelle, with I think some people saying, bring her back full time. So,
look, if we could do that. Wow.
But no, Michelle is a lovely person and a lot of expertise, as you would have heard last week. But your Canada, how was it?
Cold.
Uh-huh.
So first up, 30 hours of total time. In fact, 32 hours door to hotel door.
That's a long time.
I was wrecked.
Uh-huh.
3 legs, Sydney to Dallas, Dallas to Charlotte, which is in North Carolina, and then up to Montreal.
Okay.
Qantas into America.
Yep.
An entire ship, aircraft full of people. And how many people do you think US Customs had at US Customs?
Oh, 2?
Oh, that's optimistic. My sweet summer child. No, it was just one poor guy. And
Well,
I realized,
I think in the olden days, some people did call planes ships. So.
true, yeah, airships, ships of the sky. And I realized probably why. I was arriving on Super Bowl weekend, so probably no one wanted to be at work. And this poor guy is just sitting there. And it's all manual, of course, because the US refuses to put in any kind of digital customs system.
Sure.
And then, of course, I transferred to American Airlines, and that's when the delays
codeshare partner of
began.
Qantas.
Yeah.
So how was flying American Airlines?
Look, I've got to say, despite from the delays on the inbound route, it was okay. And I thought, I'd heard worse about American Airlines. On the outbound flight, the trip down to Charlotte was fine, but the next leg, instead of going back to Dallas, it was Charlotte to LAX, which always fills me with dread. But who knew that there's an airline in the world that puts you on an aircraft for 6 hours and doesn't serve you booze? In fact, only gave me 2 biscuits and some apple juice.
Well, that's just criminal.
I thought so. Thankfully, getting to LAX is the plus side of traveling US domestic and then flying US. Flying into gate 151, departing gate 157, all on the one terminal. I've had so many nightmares transiting LAX, usually because you're going on to Qantas the next leg. And I've got to say, if I were traveling...
So flying ex-LAX.
Ex-LAX, yeah. If I were traveling into the US again, I might consider traveling a domestic airline with an international route like American Airlines, just to make that transfer easy. And also, Terminal B is like, oh, this is not like the LAX I remember. Shiny, nice, easy to get around, lots of food and bar options, which, is a big thing for me.
And hopefully lax security wasn't lax security.
Well, there was no lax security because...
So it was lax security.
Oh. No, there was no lax... Anyway, because I'd already cleared customs coming in through Canada, which was deadly easy. I didn't have to do that weird juggle of reproving who I was or unpacking all my bags again or showing. It was just done. Really quite smooth. And the flight back across the pond was great, except for the last 3 hours of turbulence. Oof, that was rough.
So into Dallas, you would have flown the A380, I imagine?
Yep. Yeah.
And what was it, a Dreamliner back or an A330?
Dreamliner, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Very, very comfortable. It was a 777 coming back on the long leg. So an older aircraft.
But with American?
With American, yeah.
Okay.
777-300. You could tell because the older seat back entertainment units had the little remote controller in the back of the seat rather than the arm. It's like, I remember these. But look, 30 hours in the air is pretty terrible. And to say I was jet lagged is an overstatement. Going there because I didn't get to my hotel until 2 a.m. and who can sleep after all of that?
Yeah.
So I was just wrecked for days. Coming back though, that flight gets you in at 9 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. If you can stay up for that day, you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was saying before you went over, it's weird that these guys didn't fly you in through Vancouver. That would have been way easier, surely, because, you fly in through Vancouver or Toronto and you just connect through to Montreal rather than having to go Dallas, Charlotte, North Carolina, Montreal.
And I did have a chat to one of the people representing the company I was there with, which is Genetech. They do physical security.
It does sound like an evil corporation that makes super soldiers.
It does, but they're not. There's nothing evil about them. They're really, really good people. I'm not saying that just because I was their guest. But I did.
Are you sure it's not run by a guy called Hank Scorpio? Because
I met the guy who runs it, and he's not at all like Hank Scorpio. For the most part. Anyway, and I said, look, how did you come up with this flight plan? And apparently it's what their internal travel agent gave them. So I got nothing. Yeah. Every time I spoke to someone, like, where are you from? Oh, I flew in from Sydney. The looks of horror.
Yeah.
Absolute, oh my God. Yeah. But, look, Montreal is a lovely city. I would absolutely go back there off my own bat. If only to see more of the place. Yeah.
And I take it you did not go too close to El Paso during that whole thing?
I might have gone near it, maybe. I don't know. No, I did not. No.
Yeah, did you hear about the El Paso thing?
No, what happened?
Abruptly, the FAA shut down the airspace around El Paso.
Juarez.
Shut down the El Paso airspace for what was supposed to be like 10 days.
10 days. I had friends
hours.
going, the US is about to bomb another city. And no, it was a drone. No, it was a balloon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's Superman.
So, which I watched on the flight over, by the way. Not half bad.
The new one?
The new one, yeah.
I'll have to make a note of that. It is. We should probably talk about the news at some point.
We should probably, absolutely.
And so speaking of snarls and situations around airspace, Brisbane. We've had another stoush erupting because we love a stoush here on Australian Aviation.
Do we like a Donnybrook as well?
Ooh, a Donnybrook. I love myself a Donnybrook. Yeah. You've spent time in Canada recently, I can tell. But we've had a stoush. We love a stoush. We love a Tilly. We love a Donnybrook. Between Brisbane Airport and once again the Brisbane Flight Path Community Alliance, who are these local community advocates who very focused on the issue of aircraft noise, or, as we of course call it on the Australian Aviation Podcast, the purring of sky kittens. Mm-hmm. So this report, the BFPCA commissioned a report from a University of Queensland economist, Professor John Quiggin, great name, and basically this report has said banning night flights, so imposing a nighttime curfew at Brisbane Airport would cost only around $10 million per year, but could generate at least $50 million in health and economic benefits. Professor Quiggin said Brisbane residents, on conservative estimates, are collectively losing up to $100 million per year in the form of sleep disruption, elevated health risks, reduced quality of life, and depressed land values. The imposition of a curfew would yield health benefits from reduced coronary attacks and other severe effects of around $100 million per year. Hedonic land valuations, which incorporate less severe effects such as annoyance, yield much higher values ranging from $200 to $350 million. Curfew would also yield benefits in form of reduced public subsidies. So the report is proposing a curfew suggesting that a curfew between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. would, be a minimal cost to the economy, including shifting some freight over to Toowoomba Wellcamp.
Yep.
This curfew, by the way, would be slightly longer than Sydney's. Sydney shuts down at 11 p.m.
Yeah. Although every now and then you do get an aircraft coming in late, and boy, do I notice that a lot more now. Now that I'm like paying a lot more attention to aviation, I'm like, I wonder what flight that is.
Like medical or really late night freight or something like that.
Yeah.
Professor Quiggin said that it is analytically unsound that aviation should be exempt from regulatory constraint. He said industries that generate externalities, whether transport, manufacturing, or energy, are commonly subject to operating limits, particularly during sensitive night hours. It is time to bring Brisbane Airport into line and lead the rest of the country. A curfew is standard policy, not radical reform. Now, the airport...
Funnily enough, the airport probably had something to say about this, and I will take the part of the airport if you do not mind.
Yes, Henry Tutiet?
Yep, the airport's
Henry
executive general manager, said the report relies upon assumptions that have already been academically analysed and disputed, particularly claims about property value impacts. Queensland University of Technology analysis, more than 180,000 residential sales over 36 years, found no evidence of long-term price reduction or weaker capital growth in suburbs under flight paths.
Yes, areas performing as well as or better than comparable suburbs. Factors such as proximity to CBD, access to key transport hubs, including the airport, existing house prices, schools, amenities, socioeconomic profile, all impact property values. Now, according to Henry T., the report relies on assumptions that have already been academically analysed and disputed. It fails to account for the fact that Brisbane Airport's 24-hour operations are critical to industries that underpin the Queensland economy, particularly tourism and time-sensitive exports, the resources industry, and crucial healthcare services. He said previous economic analysis has estimated the real reduction in activity at $2.3 billion by 2031-32 and $5.5 billion by 2041-42. Reduction in employment estimated at 24,542 jobs by 2032. 57,922 jobs by 2042. And it could have impacts on Queenslanders like higher airfares, reduced options in flights, fewer international connections, loss of regional services. And one other thing that Henry T has said is that the BFPCA report, quote, assumes that caps and curfews are the only way to deliver relief to affected communities, while overlooking practical and less economically damaging alternatives, including improved flight path optimization, maximization of the proportion of aircraft operating over Moreton Bay, and the accelerated rollout of newer, quieter aircraft.
I do find it funny that it always comes down to the first line of defense for anybody saying airports or airlines should operate differently is, we'll drive up airfares. Well, it doesn't have to, because you're the ones who drive up airfares.
Now, it is the airlines that drive up the airfares. I think the airports do have a bit of, influence probably with the aeronautical fees and such. But
it's such an emotional appeal.
We actually spoke about that with Michelle last week in terms of, I think it was consumer protections.
Yep.
Airlines saying, it'll drive up airfares if we have a pay on delay scheme or if we have this or that.
Oh, yeah.
Consumer protection scheme. But yes, it'll drive up airfares is a common line of attack. But you would think that some of these arguments from the airport do have some merit, particularly if it is, as they say, backed up by the numbers. Fewer sky kittens coming in means, less choice, means higher prices. It could impact regional services if regional flights aren't able to come in at night. It could impact freight, depending on how much can be shifted over to Toowoomba. You sort of live in the inner west, which is under flight paths, as you've mentioned. But what?
It's just the background sound of my life.
Yeah. How are the sky kittens for you?
Noisy.
Uh-huh.
I always know I'm probably not going to get back to sleep if I can hear that first 6 a.m. aircraft.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm awake now. If I don't hear it, I sleep all the way through it. And I don't know if that's a common experience, but I always get that sense of, I know I'm awake. Ugh. If I don't hear it, I'm fine. Of an evening, I barely notice it these days, but now I'm in Petersham rather than in Marrickville. Marrickville, I was right underneath it. Even then, I don't know, I'd lived there for so long, like decades, that it just no longer worried me at all. The place I lived in before now was actually built for purpose, so it was double glazed, everything. And even though I was on the top floor of my apartment building, with all the windows closed, it was great. Of course, during summer, you can't do that unless you've got the aircon on, so it was a bit louder. But it's never really worried me that much. But I also understand, if you've got kids, if you've got a baby sleeping and the aircraft wakes them up, you can't tell the kid it's not as bad as you think it is.
Yeah.
And then of course you've got the property values. You've got the
property values is a classic Sydney.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you've got the pollution worries of avgas and whatever else emissions come from the aircraft as well. I know that living under the flight path, I get a very particular kind of dust in my homes. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit oily and greasy.
Yeah.
But, I'm also not going to live anywhere else. So, yeah. But the thing is, I don't know the position here in Brisbane. I don't know what those very particular neighbourhoods are that live under the flight path. Because I've only flown into Brisbane maybe twice my entire life. And it's a city that I don't have a lot of idea about its geography, if I'm perfectly honest.
Well, in fairness to the airport, and they have raised this, in their response. Brisbane Airport has been taking measures to reduce the purring of the sky kittens over populated areas.
Yeah.
Air services, bringing in sod props, simultaneous opposite direction runway, parallel runway operations, which,
sod
allows...
prop sounds like some kind of eating issue like FODMAP.
It does.
Yeah.
But it allows more flights to take off and land over the water rather than over populated parts of the city.
Yeah.
And there's been increased allowances that some airlines have accepted for tailwinds, so you can take off into stronger tailwinds, which will allow more flights to go over the water. And they have been doing what they can, as Henry T said. Flight path optimization, more planes going over Moreton Bay, newer, quieter aircraft like the A220s and the 737 Maxes and the A320 Neos and the E2s, though those aren't flying into Brisbane yet.
But they will.
And one hopes. So there have been some measures taken to reduce the sky kitten purring, and modern kittens purr less loudly
They do, exactly,
than old kittens. So it's definitely a balancing act.
I got to say, I would love to see some of the math behind how one gets to, and here is the dollar value we could gain from less heart attacks in the community, and that aircraft are causing it. Not that I'm gainsaying the UQ's people. I dare say it's all supportable, but it just feels like one of those insurmountable arguments. The immovable force meaning the unstoppable force meaning the immovable object.
Yeah.
You're not going to stop what an airport and aircraft are doing in and out of it. It's just a friction we're always going to put up with.
But tell us what you think.
Please do.
Go down in the comments. Let us know what you think about the Sky Kittens issue. Should there be curfews on Sky Kittens, or are existing measures to reduce Sky Kitten purring enough? Let us know. We're going to go for a first quick break, but when we come back, we're going to be back with more of the week's news. Back in a moment. All right, welcome back. You're listening to the Australian Aviation Podcast. We're back with more of the week's news.
As promised.
Yes, we are. 3 times I promised that we would be back. Now, we're not ready to award this month's Huey just yet, but we have had some data come out of OAG, a UK-based analytics firm, that of the major airlines of the world, so airlines that operate more than 20,000 flights per month, Qantas ranked 3rd in the entire world for January for on-time performance. And this is on-time arrivals. So how often are you arriving at the gate within 15 minutes of the scheduled time? Now, Qantas in January, 83.32% of the time. Just behind, it's a little way behind Hainan Airlines in second place at 87.92%, and China Southern in first place at 89.4%. So China Southern was the most on-time airline in the world last month, but Qantas came in at number 3. Now, Qantas is the only major Australian airline as considered by OAG. Virgin Australia is counted as a large airline, and it placed 10th. 82.48% on time, 0.82% cancelled. Qantas, by the way, cancelled 2.18% of flights. Now, this is international and domestic together. Jetstar did not rank in the top 25 of large airlines. Overall, among all carriers, 101st for Jetstar, with 67.02% on time and 2.46% cancelled, which is not a fantastic score for Jetstar. By the way, across all airlines, 33rd place for Qantas, Virgin Australia 36th. The Qantas Group domestically has beaten Virgin in on-time performance for 7 straight months, but Virgin continues to lead on flight completion rates, as we have often discussed. That is one reason why they won the Huey last month.
Yes.
Hello, Soot. Been a while since we've seen Soot on the show. But Qantas domestic chief executive Marcus Svensson told the Australian that it is a credit to all of the Qantas team members who've been working hard to deliver more reliable services, because back at the highest of the post-COVID-19 problems in 2022, Qantas was 106th. He said, the feedback we're getting from customers is they're noticing the difference when they fly with us. We're continuing to invest across our operations, from engineering to airports and new aircraft, so we can continue to build on this momentum. Qantas gets a lot of stick.
Yes, it does, and I would say rightfully so, because it had a dreadful track record there for a while, as we were just saying. But I got to say, from my personal experience, it seems to have definitely been improving.
Yeah, we get called Qantas haters here sometimes, and we also get called bootlicking Qantas lackeys, depending on how our coverage is.
You can't please everyone all the time, and why would you try?
But I always come back to when Qantas does a good thing, we say go Qantas. When Qantas does a bad thing, we say boo Qantas.
We say, where is my luggage, Qantas? Nothing. It's fine. Carry on. Yeah.
So yes, Qantas 3rd in the world for on-time arrivals in January, and that's international and domestic. Well done to Qantas.
Bravo.
Now, talking of international services, it has been confirmed by Ethiopian Airlines.
This gets me. Yeah.
Yeah. Ethiopian Airlines.
And no offense to Ethiopian Airlines, it was not on my bingo card.
Yeah, definitely. So Ethiopian Airlines has announced plans to fly to Australia in 2028. Now, we don't know where they're going just yet, but they want at least 2 routes from Australia to Addis Ababa. It will be looking to get more wide-body jets first, so more A350s, more Dreamliners. But this would be another connection from Australia into Africa, because I think the only connections at the moment are to Mauritius and to Joburg.
Yeah, there are not a lot.
Yeah. But also connections into Europe, because from Addis Ababa, I think Ethiopian connects to a lot of places in Europe. Like
when you
London.
think of the geography, yeah, it would actually. It gives you a whole other stop-off destination.
Yeah, exactly. So it would potentially have an effect on airfares and choice from Australia to London, which is, where a lot of Aussies are going if they're flying to Europe.
Guilty as charged, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's always that layover somewhere in the Emirates.
Yeah. Well, it's, Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Doha.
Yep.
This would add Addis Ababa as an option. So you fly Ethiopian into Addis Ababa and then on to, Heathrow or wherever you would be going in Europe. Would you consider flying through Addis Ababa?
Look, this is going to sound horrible. What is the current level of unrest in that region of the world? That's my only concern. There's a lot happening in that part of the world.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. The Tigray War still ongoing. Wikipedia. Ethiopian civil conflict, 2018 to present. Look, I would actually, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I don't think they would be opening that up if they thought there was any risk, because the last thing any country wants is craft load of tourists knocked out of the air by whatever.
Yeah.
And I like, it's a layover in a place I've not been before. That's going to be interesting. I'd fly it, absolutely.
Yeah, well, we've had some comments on Facebook about this. Again, surprisingly cogent for Facebook comments. But people have been saying, James Nankervis says, I'll be keen to see how this goes. Ethiopian have been making leaps and bounds over the past few years. I wonder how it will affect pricing by Emirates, Qatar, etc. For Europe flights. Could be great for competition, especially if they're willing to be more diverse with their flight timings than the likes of Qantas. As much as I love them, having every Europe-bound flight being a red eye is a turn-off.
Yeah.
Kevin Scrimshaw says, I don't see Ethiopian becoming a threat to Etihad, Qatar, or Emirates, but if they can pinch a percentage of the Australian to Europe hub and spoke market, they'll fill a few aluminium canisters, perhaps enough to be viable. He does say, my questions are around catering. When I think Ethiopian, my mind doesn't rush to Neil Perry.
I think all of these are quite valid, because I was just wondering not only about flying in and out, but when you fly into Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Doha, those locations, you are going through a world-class airport built for that interchange of customers, most of whom aren't staying any more than a few hours there.
Yeah.
So it's designed for maximum throughput and as much distraction as you can find while you're there. I have no idea what Addis Ababa International must be like. But again, they wouldn't be doing this if they didn't think the infrastructure was up to it.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's all part of the development.
You can land Dreamliners and A350s and such at Addis Ababa because Ethiopian has already been doing it.
Yeah.
Anthony on Facebook says would be fantastic to have a Perth Addis Ababa direct connection. ET hard and soft product and pretty good. Mark says that'll be great. Very good airline and gives many options to African destinations.
That's what I was just thinking as well. I mean, it's one more destination to fly into Africa, which could help open up the continent to a whole lot of tourists.
Further north as well than Joburg.
Way further north. North and east.
Yeah.
I would absolutely fly through there. And hell, I'd even consider spending a few days, because that's a unique part of the world.
It
is.
A
really interesting history, both recent and more historical. I'd go.
Well, and you let us know out there as well. Would you fly Ethiopian through Addis Ababa? Would you fly Ethiopian to Addis Ababa if they came to Australia?
Yeah.
What do you think this will do to
We'd love to know.
to prices? Let us know. There's been a bit of focus as well on general aviation and recreational aviation over the past couple of weeks. Not good.
No.
Focus. So we covered this last year when the ATSB released its report. Ag Air had this crash of a Rockwell jet prop commander near Cloncurry in November 2023. Last year, the ATSB put out its report and basically said The ATSB, sort of as a rule, doesn't tend to point fingers, but they pointed the finger pretty hard at Ag Air, the operator of the aircraft, in their report, basically saying the cause of this crash was hypoxia. So the pilot ran out of oxygen.
What?
And the cause of the hypoxia was a faulty pressurization system that Ag Air had known about for a while, but didn't really fix.
The oxygen thing? Fine.
So,
fine.
As the ATSB said, over a period, this was Angus Mitchell, over a period of many months, the accident aircraft's pressurization system was not reliably maintaining the required cabin altitude. This led some company pilots to employ a variety of actions in the aircraft to manage the potential and deadly effects of hypoxia, including, at times, briefly descending to lower altitudes and improperly using emergency oxygen systems. So instead of, and apparently Ag Air was encouraging this, or encouraging this sort of behavior, according to the ATSB.
This is why I drink, by the way.
Yeah. So instead of getting this properly looked at, they were basically telling the pilots, or not telling the pirates, not necessarily telling
Sky Pirates.
Yeah, that's I love Sky Pirates, don't you? But telling the pilots, or not telling them necessarily, but at least turning a blind eye, perhaps, to pilots in at least this aircraft, relying on emergency oxygen, which you should not do in the course of normal.
When it's not an emergency.
Yeah. So Ag Air management personnel, said Mitchell, participated in and encouraged the practice of continuing operations in the aircraft at a cabin altitude of 19,000 feet, and as such required the use of oxygen without access to a suitable oxygen supply. The pilot had normalized the practice of managing the intermittent pressurization issue by undertaking short descents to lower altitudes and by using the aircraft's emergency oxygen system. This represented a practice of using a critical safety system designed for emergency use only in order to continue a commercial activity. Now, CASA has brought the hammer down.
Yeah.
Ag Air has had its air operator certificate cancelled, its aerial work certificate revoked. The aviation regulator, according to ABC reports, found that the company had neglected essential maintenance, created a culture of poor safety.
Yeah.
This crash, by the way, in Cloncurry killed 3 people, including the pilot and 2 camera operators. According to CASA, and this is talking about, I think, one of the individual authorization holders at Ag Air, the authorization holder was on notice of pressurization maintenance defect issues, but continued to allow the aircraft to fly missions at altitudes where it was clear that the defective pressurization system of the aircraft was a serious safety issue. The authorization holder oversaw a culture of systemic failure to record defects and allowed aircraft to continue to fly with non-permissible defects that should have grounded the aircraft. This inculcated a poor safety culture within the company and compromised aviation safety.
This is the follow-up here, and I think this talks about that top-down attitude of she'll be right. Various instances of pilots not recording aircraft defects on the maintenance release. Pilots operating aircraft with scheduled maintenance tasks in the MR overdue. Pilots operating aircraft with non-permissible It's like, well, of course they're going to do that, because management doesn't care.
Yeah.
Management is going, it's fine.
Yeah.
So it's this top-down attitude of she'll be right, and it's led to these 3 poor individuals dying.
Yeah, it's a really sad story.
It really is.
Now there is an appeal, or like they're disputing this in the, I think, administrative review tribunal.
Yeah.
There's going to be a hearing later this month. Will be interesting to see how that goes. But it's just this is a situation that should never have happened.
No.
And if, as we said last year, if the ATSB is saying this sort of thing, with the no blame culture that the ATSB generally has, that is damning.
We will not go out of our way to blame you. These guys, we blame.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, I've got to say that the crash scene photo that illustrates the article is stark.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that was from a video released by the ATSB.
It's basically a white shadow of what an aircraft used to be, and you can see the shape of it. It must have come down hard and fast in more or less one piece.
Yeah. I think it like entered a spin as the pilot was trying to correct something, and the pilot was affected by low oxygen. Right? Yeah, hypoxia is dangerous for a pilot. It's like
look, I back the ATSB in this one,
and CASA.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens.
Yep.
We've also had some focus on recreational aviation. Now, this was also from the ABC. ABC 730 reported on sort of investigations and poor training standards in some parts of recreational aviation. There was a crash in November 24 that killed a pilot and his younger brother and his young cousin. And this pilot, Luke Smith, 20 years old, this was in Gippsland, had been trained by the school called Adventure Flight Training. Now, in January 2024, there was an online multiple choice flight instructor exam that this school administered for RAOs that defaulted all the correct answers to A. And so Smith answered A 47 out of 50 times. So there was a subsequent exam with the same questions and answers, which he failed. There was no records showing he attempted the exam a third time. This was a flight instructor exam. Recreational Aviation Australia told the ABC that they had known of ongoing problems at AFT some 3 months before Smith died. Michael Monk, the chair of RA Oz, said, quote, "We were aware of some issues that became evident within that school prior to the accident. We took actions to address those actions or the lack of training or the potential deficiencies in the training that he received. The instructor involved is no longer operational with RA Oz." Michael Monk also said that it is not good practice to draw a broad conclusion that the industry is broken from a single accident. We need to understand what these issues are rather than making broad sweeping statements that just create headlines. Angus Mitchell, again, Chief Commissioner of the ATSB, told 730 that the crash should never have happened, which it shouldn't. Called for better supervision of pilot training. He told 730 they do need some really positive oversight to all of the flight training schools to make sure what is being instructed is correct and it is being understood by students. It's not a tick-the-box exercise. It is there to keep people and to keep pilots and their passengers safe.
Yeah. And looking at what the ATSB said in its report is really quite damning.
Yeah.
When they looked at Smith's exam history, they found several errors about aerodynamic stalling in exams conducted during 2024, and it was concluded the pilot likely had inadequate knowledge of the relationship between angle of bank, load factor, and stall speed. They're the basics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this school clearly failed, according to the ATSB report.
Yeah.
And the question is now, was there enough oversight? Because Michael Monk said, the instructor involved is no longer operational with RAOs, but how many flight training schools around the country are having similar issues?
And how many other students of this school are still out there without that basic knowledge?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So general aviation has not been having a good week in terms of ATSB findings and CASA findings and all of those. The industry, I think, does need more supervision.
It does feel, and this just maybe because I'm paying more attention to it in the last little while that I've been co-hosting the podcast, but I feel there's been more of these kind of accidents over the last 12 months.
Well, I mean, general aviation is, probably the least safe part because generally you're looking at lighter planes.
Yep.
You probably have people who are less experienced pilots if they're a lot of students getting into accidents and things like that. But it's a concern, and
definitely.
Some companies in the GA sector do have poor culture that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
I think there was a survey last year or the year before talking about poor culture and poor safety in general aviation and pilot stress and things like that. So the GA sector, I think, needs a bit of a light shone on it to address issues of safety and culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on that note, we're going to go for one more quick break, but when we come back, a bit more of the week's news. All right, welcome back. You're listening to the Australian Aviation Podcast. Potentially happier news now. If you are a Jetstar frequent flyer, there may be some relief in sight for your cabin bag allowance. Jetstar has sort of signaled that weight-based cabin bag allowances could be going out the door. There's a review being conducted into cabin baggage policy at Jetstar. And the head of network and fleet, Ted Knight, told news.com.au that the current policy, 7 kilograms of cabin baggage per passenger, could be updated to, it could, have more weight added for free, or it could, maybe they will charge you to add more, for the ability to add more weight.
Or go to a size-based
or a
kind of
size-based allowance.
So, little boxes you put in. Does your bag fit here? Yes. Carry it on.
Yeah, so a size-based allowance, as Ted Knight said, you know what size your bag is. Your bag doesn't change size. It's the same bag you've used every trip. So you don't need to sort of faff about with going and weighing your bag at the airport and taking stuff out of your bag and transferring things between bags. If it is a size-based system like they have in a lot of the US.
Yeah.
Did you see size-based systems when you were?
I did, but I very rarely worry about them. I'm one of these people who always just only travels with carry-on, no matter how long I'm traveling for. Because one, I hate
that is sort of the carry-on that you stick in the overhead.
Yeah, but I don't do anything else.
Yeah.
And I make sure it's a backpack as well. So backpacks, even if they're huge, tend to get given a very, very different attitude to the roll-on bags.
Yeah.
So even by size-based stuff, a lot of time my backpack probably wouldn't fit. But people look at the it's just a backpack.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's me.
So this could, as he said, if you're in Australia, and this is Virgin Australia and Qantas and Rex and Jetstar and all of these, you have to know how much your bag weighs.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's a size-based system, you can load the bag up as much as you like and not have to worry about it because it's the same bag and it will always be the same size, and you just need to go, will it fit into the thing?
Yes. Will it fit into the thing?
Yes. Ted Knight says sometimes you're walking up to the gate, you get that kind of gate anxiety and you're not sure whether you weighed your bag correctly or if you forgot to weigh it. He said, in our constant work really to just reduce pain points to deliver a seamless experience, one pound of our policy we're looking at is carry-on bags. We're looking at different options between size and weight. At the moment, it's weight-based. We're looking at different options for sizes. And he says, if in a size-based system, you've got that confidence in your bag, and then once you pack your bag, you don't know the weight it's become. That's where you get the anxiety. And you hear stories as well of, passengers at the gate of a Jetstar flight and, having their bag weighed and being slugged with extra charges.
Yeah, right there when you don't want it. You've paid all you're going to pay, and then suddenly, Yeah.
And, those extra charges you get at the airport are probably bigger than if you booked extra weight to begin with.
Yeah.
So that might cut off a bit of a revenue.
It's a punitive system, basically.
Yeah, basically. Now, obviously, if they switch to a size-based system, they would have to consider weight and balance in the aircraft a bit differently because, if you know every bag is 7 kilograms or less, then you roughly know where you can put them. Whereas, in a size-based system, you don't know how much an individual bag is going to weigh. What do you think? Would you be keen on a size-based system as opposed to weight?
Look, here's the thing. Airlines are risk averse.
Yes.
If they think they can handle this without, disrupting flights or being a threat, then it's fine. It's no issue, and it reduces, as the guy says, it's one less point of friction when you're traveling. I actually quite like to see that carriers are considering what appears to be on the outside a very little minor thing to most travelers, but they're thinking about it. The way to make that airport experience much, much better. So I'm all for it.
We had, if you recall, last year, just before Christmas, there was a skydivers instructors strike.
Yes.
There was another one over the weekend. This was, again, the AWU striking at Skydiving Australia sites, I believe, run by Experience Co. Yep. Now, about 70 skydivers around the country walked off the job from 8 sites nationwide. That was at Cairns, Mission Beach, Noosa, Byron, Wollongong, Yarra Valley, St Kilda, and Barwon Heads. And again, they were, looking for, better pay and conditions. I think it's sort of the same issue.
It's pretty much the same thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously the press release was Valentine's Day themed.
Okay. Yes. Exactly.
Because lovers' tiff ruins Valentine's Day as Australian skydiving instructors strike. This was from the AWU.
Yeah.
Experience Co, which operates as Skydive Australia's jump sites up and down the East Coast from Kansas and Kilda, has walked away from paid negotiations with their instructors on Valentine's Day, no less.
I would have thought they'd have leapt out of an aircraft rather than walk away, but that's just me. Oh
Yeah.
no, they were striking. They couldn't, of course. Yeah.
Jonathan Cook, the AWU national organizer, said, our skydiving instructors just want to love the one they're with, but Experience Co just won't respect their relationship. Our members have been offered $58,000 a year. That's a minus 2.33% pay cut during a cost of living crisis. These negotiations have been tempestuous from day one, with skydivers who've been with the company for decades even being told they would be better off quitting and becoming contractors. Well, this Valentine's Day, skydivers are saying they won't be falling for the same old sweet platitudes and empty promises.
This is a whole level of industrial relations that I was completely, absolutely ignorant of. I can't imagine rocking up, to decide, I've now decided to leap out of an aircraft. And the man I'm going to do it with, he's on strike. What the hell? They can't strike. They leap out of an aircraft for a job. But obviously it's a mildly stressful job, leaping out of an
One would assume,
with a granny strapped to your chest.
Yeah.
So, I guess if they want more pay, they should get more pay.
And apparently there has been some moving of the needle.
Okay.
So according to the AWU, they told us before strike notices were put in, the company had walked away from negotiations. Since then, we had an emergency bargaining meeting last Wednesday where more progress was made. The parties are meeting today at 3 p.m. That is Tuesday.
That is
to see the company's new offer. AWU members will not stop until they set the standard for skydiver instructors in the country. This is the first ever negotiation in the industry. It's the first time ever that skydivers are having a say in their employment terms and conditions. AWU says our members know how important it is to get this right. So if there's no improved offer, we'd expect more strike action into the future.
Okay.
So I will bring you updates on this.
Okay. Look, this is definitely a developing story.
And, in an area of aviation that isn't often covered.
No.
Last, but not least, very, very quickly, congratulations to Air New Zealand for this electric aircraft trial, which is wrapped up after 4 months, the Beta Alia CX300.
And what a striking aircraft it is as well.
It's so cute, isn't it?
Yeah.
But this battery electric aircraft, was involved in a trial. Air New Zealand is looking to use this in conjunction with NZ Post to deliver freight. 100 flights totaling 13,000 kilometers over the 4 months, visiting 12 airports and aerodromes across the country. It flew more than 20 tons of simulated cargo. It participated in New Zealand's first low-emissions instrument flight rules operation. It operated multiple times over the Cook Strait. And it demonstrated significant difference in fuel costs. And this is striking, actually. 20 NZ dollars between Wellington and Blenheim. Blenheim?
Well, maybe Blenheim if you're local. I don't know, but Blenheim.
Beeheim. $20 in electrical energy NZ versus $110 in fuel for a Cessna Caravan.
So, I mean, that's the dollar saving.
Yeah.
Completely ignoring the emissions saving.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
One, it's a cute aircraft. It's cheaper to run and better for the planet.
Yeah, exactly. So Air New Zealand has a firm order for one of them, options for an extra 2, rights for a further 20. And as I say, they're initially looking to operate it for NZ Post cargo services, routes of roughly 150 Ks, 1,500 to 3,000 meters. Looks like it's done well. They've handed the aircraft back now to Beta Technologies for the next phase of testing. Hopefully we'll see more of these in the skies.
What a crazy looking aircraft.
They're cute. They're such adorable
Like,
little
look
guys.
at the size of the prop on it.
Yeah.
It's barely there.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
They're just little guys. They're just little guys.
Little guys. Speaking of little guys, before we go, I was wandering through Charlotte Airport, and what did I see? Little dog.
Oh, that's nice.
Someone carrying their pet, and clearly
Was it Soot?
About that size, in fact. One of the passengers had like a little doggy carrier with them, and they were walking their dog through the terminal, and I thought, we've started doing that.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, okay.
Well, there you go. On that happy note,
Yes.
Talking about little guys, from sky kittens to sky puppies. That's all the time we have for the Australian Aviation Podcast for today. Thank you, David, and welcome back from Canada. Hoping your next destination will not be so cold.
It'll be Florida in 2 weeks' time.
You may prefer Canada.
I may well, yeah.
But we will see you next week, and we will see you next week. And that's it from us for now. Goodbye.